In the heart of Natal, South Africa, the small town of Umzinto nestled between rolling hills and lush, verdant landscapes. The early 1900s brought change to this land, where the old ways of the Zulu people met the encroaching influence of European settlers and missionaries. Amidst this backdrop of cultural and religious intersection stood the St. Michael's Mission, a beacon of Christian faith and education. The mission, with its simple stone chapel and rows of modest buildings, served as a haven for those seeking solace and instruction in the ways of the New World. The air was filled with the mingling scents of blooming jacarandas and the rich, earthy aroma of freshly tilled soil, a testament to the labor and devotion of those who called this place home. Clara's family and childhood. Clara Germana Cele was born into a world straddling two realms: the traditions of her ancestors and the Christian doctrines imparted by the missionaries. Her family, though not affluent, was respected in the community. Her father, a laborer, worked diligently to provide for the family, while her mother tended to their home and children with quiet strength. From an early age, Clara exhibited a keen intelligence and a curiosity that sometimes bordered on rebelliousness. She often questioned the teachings of the missionaries, not out of defiance, but from a genuine desire to understand the mysteries of faith that seemed both enlightening and confounding. Clara's childhood was marked by the rhythm of life at the mission. Her days began with morning prayers, followed by lessons in reading, writing, and arithmetic. She was particularly fond of stories from the Bible, which sparked her imagination and fueled her dreams of a world beyond the boundaries of her small town. Life at the mission. At the St. Michael's Mission, Clara found a community that nurtured her intellectual and spiritual growth. The missionaries, led by the kind yet firm Father Erasmus Horner, saw potential in Clara's sharp mind and encouraged her studies. Father Horner, a man of deep faith and compassion, took a particular interest in Clara, seeing in her the seeds of a future leader for her people. The mission was a place of discipline and order, where daily life was structured around the clockwork of prayer and service. Clara thrived in this environment, yet she sometimes felt the weight of expectations placed upon her. Her interactions with Father Horner and the other missionaries were characterized by a mix of admiration and a yearning for freedom, a tension that would later manifest in unexpected ways. Personal traits and relationships. Clara's personality was a tapestry woven with threads of curiosity, empathy, and resilience. She had a natural ability to connect with others, often serving as a mediator in disputes among her peers. Her friendships at the mission were close-knit, forged through shared experiences and a mutual understanding of the challenges they faced in balancing tradition and modernity. Yet, there were moments when Clara felt a growing sense of restlessness, an inexplicable unease that gnawed at the edges of her consciousness. She confided in her closest friends, sharing dreams that were vivid and unsettling, dreams where shadows loomed large and voices whispered in languages unknown. Historical and cultural context. The early 20th century was a time of great change in South Africa. The influences of colonialism and Christianity were reshaping the social and cultural landscape. For the indigenous people, this was a period of adaptation and resistance, as they sought to preserve their identities while navigating the complexities of a rapidly transforming world. Missionaries played a pivotal role in this transition, offering education and medical care but also imposing new religious and cultural norms. In Umzinto, as in many parts of the continent, this brought about a delicate balance between acceptance and skepticism, faith and doubt. Clara, like many of her peers, was caught in this web of cultural duality. The teachings of the mission were a source of knowledge and empowerment, yet they also raised questions about the erosion of traditional beliefs and the spiritual void left in their wake. Foreshadowing the unseen. As Clara approached her teenage years, the whispers of change became more insistent. Her dreams grew darker, filled with images that haunted her waking hours. She often sought solace in the chapel, kneeling in silent prayer as she wrestled with the tumult within her soul. There were moments when Clara's gaze seemed distant, as if she were looking beyond the veil of the present into a realm unseen by others. Her friends noticed the change, a shadow that seemed to pass over her like a fleeting cloud on a sunlit day. It was during one such moment that Clara, in a voice barely above a whisper, confided to a friend that she felt as though she stood at a crossroads. The path ahead was shrouded in mystery, and within her, the seeds of doubt and fear began to take root. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, Clara sat alone in her small room at the mission, her heart a tumultuous sea of emotions. The stillness of the evening contrasted sharply with the turmoil within her soul. For weeks now, Clara had felt an inexplicable restlessness, a gnawing unease that no amount of prayer or reflection could quell. She found herself drawn to the chapel more frequently, seeking answers in the silence and solitude that it offered. Yet, even in the sacred space, the whispers of doubt grew louder, echoing in the recesses of her mind. What was this darkness that seemed to shadow her every thought? Why did she feel so detached from the light that once guided her path? Clara's growing unrest did not go unnoticed. Father Erasmus Horner, ever perceptive, had gently inquired about her well-being, urging her to share her burdens. But how could she articulate the depths of her despair, the sense of being caught between two worlds? The influences around her seemed to pull her in conflicting directions. Stories of the old ways, whispered among the elders of her community, mingled with the teachings of the missionaries. Clara found herself questioning the rigid doctrines she had been taught, pondering the mysteries of faith and the allure of forbidden knowledge. At night, her dreams were vivid and unsettling, filled with images of shadowy figures and cryptic symbols. In these dreams, Clara felt a strange power coursing through her veins, a sensation both exhilarating and terrifying. Was this merely her imagination, or was it a glimpse into a realm beyond her comprehension? The decision to make the pact came on a stormy night when the winds howled through the trees and rain battered against the windows like a relentless drumbeat. Clara had spent the day in quiet contemplation, her mind a battleground of conflicting emotions. As she knelt in prayer, seeking guidance from a God she felt increasingly distant from, the shadows in her room seemed to deepen, taking on an ominous presence. In that moment of vulnerability, Clara felt an overwhelming urge to reach out to the darkness, to embrace the unknown in search of answers. With tears streaming down her face, she whispered the words that would seal her fate, a plea for power and understanding in exchange for her soul. The air grew heavy, and for a brief moment, Clara felt a surge of energy unlike anything she had ever known. It was done. The days following the pact were a blur of confusion and fear. Clara's behavior changed almost immediately, her demeanor shifting from the introspective girl the mission had known to someone more confident, almost defiant. She spoke in tongues unknown, her voice taking on a timbre that sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it. Her friends were bewildered by the transformation, whispering among themselves about the darkness that seemed to cling to her like a shadow. Father Horner and the other missionaries watched with growing concern, unsure of how to address the situation unfolding before them. Inside, Clara wrestled with the consequences of her actions. The power she had sought was real, but it came with a price she had not fully anticipated. Visions plagued her, blurring the lines between reality and nightmare. Was this the freedom she had longed for, or had she merely exchanged one set of chains for another? The news of Clara's transformation spread quickly through the mission and beyond, sparking debates and discussions about the nature of evil and the power of choice. The missionaries gathered in earnest conversation, grappling with the implications of what had transpired. Father Horner, in particular, found himself questioning the tenets of faith he held dear. How could a young girl, so full of potential and promise, fall prey to the forces of darkness? What did this mean for their mission and the souls they sought to save? For Clara, the struggle was deeply personal. She oscillated between moments of clarity and confusion, her spirit torn between the light she had known and the darkness she had embraced. In her heart, she longed for redemption, Yet the path back seemed shrouded in mist and uncertainty. As the weeks turned into months, the tension within Clara reached a boiling point. The signs of possession grew more pronounced, manifesting in ways that left no doubt of the battle raging within her soul. Her once bright eyes now flickered with a sinister light, and the air around her seemed to crackle with an unseen energy. Her friends, unable to comprehend the changes, began to distance themselves, leaving Clara in a state of profound isolation. The whispers of the past became a cacophony, drowning out the voice of reason and hope. Father Horner, sensing the urgency of the situation, prepared for the inevitable confrontation with the darkness that had claimed one of his flock. The stage was set for a struggle not just for Clara's soul, but for the very essence of faith and redemption. The transformation in Clara Germana Cele was gradual at first, a subtle shift that might have gone unnoticed had it not been for the keen eyes of those closest to her. It began with changes in her demeanor, moments when her bright, inquisitive nature gave way to bouts of irritability and withdrawal. Her friends at the mission whispered among themselves, noting how Clara seemed lost in thought, her gaze often fixed on something beyond the present. As the days passed, the changes became more pronounced. Clara's sleep was restless, punctuated by nightmares that left her pale and trembling come morning. She spoke of voices that called to her in the dead of night, urging her to do things she could not understand. Her teachers observed her distracted behavior, her once sharp focus now dulled by an unseen weight. It wasn't long before Clara's condition escalated beyond mere mood swings. One Sunday morning, during Mass, she began to speak in tongues, languages she had never studied nor heard. The congregation watched in stunned silence as Clara, her voice resonant and otherworldly, uttered words of Latin and Greek with a fluency that defied explanation. The supernatural manifestations didn't stop there. On several occasions, Clara displayed feats of strength that belied her small frame. Witnesses recounted how she overturned a heavy wooden table in a fit of rage, the force of her anger unlike anything they had seen before. Sacred objects, once a source of comfort, now seemed to repel her, causing Clara to recoil with visible discomfort. The mission community was thrown into turmoil, grappling with the inexplicable events unfolding in their midst. Some sought to rationalize the occurrences, attributing them to hysteria or illness, while others feared that darker forces were at play. For Clara, the possession was a waking nightmare. The darkness that had once whispered at the edges of her consciousness now surged forward, threatening to consume her entirely. She felt trapped within her own body, a prisoner to forces she could neither control nor understand. Fear and despair became constant companions, each day a battle to maintain her grasp on reality. Clara longed for the simplicity of her former life, the days when her biggest worries were the lessons she had yet to learn and the dreams she had yet to chase. Her friends and family were equally tormented, torn between their love for Clara and their fear of what she had become. The mission, once a place of refuge, was now fraught with tension and uncertainty, as those who cared for Clara struggled to comprehend the magnitude of her affliction. As the possession tightened its grip, Clara found herself plunged into a world beyond her understanding. Her dreams, vivid and unsettling, became a portal to the spiritual realm, where she encountered beings of light and shadow, their presence both awe-inspiring and terrifying. These visions offered glimpses into the struggle between good and evil, a cosmic battle that raged beyond the veil of the physical world. Clara sensed that she was a pawn in this larger conflict, her soul a prize sought by forces she could scarcely comprehend. Determined to fight back, Clara sought solace in prayer, clinging to the hope that she might yet be saved. She recounted her experiences to Father Horner, who listened with a mixture of fear and fascination, his faith tested by the reality of the supernatural at their doorstep. News of Clara's possession spread like wildfire through Umzinto and beyond, igniting fear and speculation. The mission, once a symbol of stability and faith, was now a place of whispers and wary glances. The local community, caught between awe and apprehension, debated the nature of the events. Religious leaders were called upon to offer guidance and insight, their sermons filled with warnings of the dangers that lurked unseen. Some saw Clara's condition as a test of faith, a challenge to be met with prayer and vigilance. Others were less charitable, viewing her as a harbinger of doom or an object of ridicule. As rumors spread, Clara became increasingly isolated, her condition a source of both fascination and fear. The stigma of possession marked her as different, an outcast in a world that had once embraced her. With each passing day, the urgency to save Clara grew more pressing. Her symptoms intensified, the manifestations of possession more frequent and severe. It became clear to Father Horner and the other missionaries that an intervention was needed, one that would require faith, courage, and divine assistance. Preparations for the exorcism began in earnest, a somber and sacred task that weighed heavily on the hearts of those involved. The community gathered, united in prayer and purpose, as they prepared to confront the darkness that had taken hold of one of their own. In the days leading up to the exorcism, Clara's fear was matched only by her determination to reclaim her soul. She clung to the hope that she might find redemption and deliverance, even as the shadows threatened to engulf her entirely. The stage was set for a battle between light and darkness, a struggle that would test the limits of faith and the power of belief. For Clara, the exorcism represented a final chance to free herself from the grip of the supernatural and return to the life she had once known. The days leading up to the exorcism were marked by a flurry of activity at the St. Michael's Mission. The air was thick with anticipation and anxiety as the community prepared for the sacred and daunting task of confronting the darkness that had taken hold of Clara Germana Cele. Father Erasmus Horner, along with several experienced priests from neighboring regions, coordinated the preparations with meticulous care. The chapel, once a place of peaceful reflection, was transformed into a battleground of faith. Candles were arranged in intricate patterns, their flickering light casting an ethereal glow that seemed to push back against the encroaching shadows. Holy water was blessed and stored in vessels that would be used throughout the ritual. Sacred texts, including passages from the Bible known for their power in dispelling evil, were laid out on an altar, their presence a symbol of divine strength. Clara, confined to a small room adjacent to the chapel, spent her final moments before the exorcism in a state of fearful anticipation. She was bathed in a cold sweat, her mind racing through memories of her life before the darkness took hold. The contrast between her present torment and the peaceful days of her youth felt like a chasm that could never be bridged. As the hour of the exorcism approached, the chapel filled with members of the community, their faces a mixture of hope, fear, and solemnity. The air was heavy with the scent of incense, a symbol of prayer rising to the heavens. People from all walks of life came to witness or participate in the event, their presence a testament to the gravity of the situation. The congregation included not only local villagers but also missionaries and priests from distant areas, each drawn by the gravity of Clara's plight. They gathered in hushed reverence, their eyes frequently shifting to the chapel door, as if expecting it to burst open with a revelation. Clara, separated from the crowd, remained in isolation, her mental state a tumultuous sea of emotions. Her friends and family, though eager to support her, were kept at a distance, their hearts heavy with dread and uncertainty. The ritual commenced with a solemn procession into the chapel. The priests, clad in their ceremonial robes, chanted prayers in low, resonant tones. Each step was deliberate, every gesture steeped in tradition and meaning. The atmosphere was charged with a palpable sense of urgency as they began to recite passages from the Bible, their voices merging into a powerful, unified plea for divine intervention. Clara was led into the chapel, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. The sight of the assembled congregation and the sacred objects surrounding her only intensified her distress. The exorcists began by sprinkling holy water over her, the droplets hissing as they made contact with her skin. Clara recoiled at the sensation, a guttural growl escaping her lips as the darkness within her reacted violently. As the ritual progressed, the chapel became a battleground of spiritual warfare. Clara's body convulsed uncontrollably, her movements erratic and forceful. The priests, their faces etched with concentration and determination, struggled to maintain their focus amidst the chaos. The air crackled with energy, as if the very fabric of reality was being stretched to its limits. The darkness within Clara manifested in terrifying ways. Her voice, once soft and familiar, now roared with a deep, menacing tone that reverberated through the chapel. The exorcists faced a formidable adversary, their prayers and rituals seemingly met with defiant resistance. The battle was not merely physical but also psychological, as the darkness sought to undermine their faith and resolve. In the midst of the struggle, Clara's moments of clarity became rare but significant. Briefly, she would regain control, her eyes reflecting a deep, sorrowful understanding of her plight. During these fleeting moments, she would cry out for help, her voice barely a whisper amidst the cacophony of the exorcism. As the hours wore on, the struggle reached a fever pitch. The exorcists, drenched in sweat and exhausted from the relentless battle, continued their prayers with unwavering determination. Clara's internal conflict was mirrored in the physical manifestations of her possession, as she fought against the dark forces that sought to dominate her. There were moments when the exorcism seemed on the verge of success, only to be thwarted by a resurgence of darkness. Clara's suffering was palpable, her body and spirit pushed to their limits. Yet, her resilience shone through, a testament to her enduring will to reclaim her soul. As the ritual neared its climax, the atmosphere in the chapel shifted. A profound silence fell over the congregation as the final prayers were uttered. The intensity of the struggle reached its zenith, with Clara's body arching and trembling in a final, desperate bid for freedom. The exorcism came to a dramatic close as the darkness within Clara seemed to dissipate, leaving her limp and exhausted. The priests, their faces a mix of relief and exhaustion, concluded the ritual with a final blessing. The congregation, having witnessed the harrowing ordeal, broke into a subdued murmur of relief and gratitude. In the days following the exorcism, Clara's recovery was slow but steady. The immediate aftermath left her physically drained, her spirit bruised but not broken. The mission community, though relieved, remained haunted by the memory of the ordeal. The experience had left an indelible mark on their collective consciousness. For Clara, the path to recovery was fraught with challenges. She grappled with the emotional and psychological scars left by the possession and the exorcism. Her journey was one of healing and redemption, as she sought to rebuild her life amidst the lingering shadows of her past. The exorcism had been a test of faith and fortitude, not only for Clara but for the entire community. The experience reinforced the fragility of human existence in the face of the supernatural and the enduring power of hope and perseverance. After the exorcism, Clara Germana Cele lay exhausted, her body and spirit worn out by the ordeal. The chapel, once filled with fervor, was now calm as the congregation and priests reflected on the intense spiritual battle they had witnessed. Medical professionals and spiritual advisors immediately attended to Clara, addressing her dehydration and fatigue while offering prayers to cleanse her of any lingering malevolent influence. Her family, both relieved and overwhelmed, shed tears for the trauma Clara had endured and the toll it had taken on everyone involved. The exorcism stirred mixed reactions in the Umzinto community. Some saw Clara's survival as a testament to faith and divine intervention, while skeptics questioned the legitimacy of the exorcism and the mission's practices. This divide created tension within the community, prompting a reassessment of the mission's role and approach to spiritual and medical crises. Plans were made to integrate both medical and spiritual care for individuals facing similar challenges in the future. Clara's recovery involved both physical and emotional challenges. Surrounded by caregivers, she endured weeks of rest and rehabilitation. Therapy sessions helped Clara confront her fears and process her trauma, while support from friends and family provided comfort and stability. Their love and care counterbalanced the isolation and fear she experienced during the possession. The missionaries and clergy worked to address the event's fallout by offering ongoing spiritual support to Clara and the community. They organized regular prayer services and counseling sessions to help individuals cope and reinforce their faith. The mission engaged in open dialogue with the community, promoting understanding among believers and skeptics. The experience prompted the mission to integrate spiritual practices with medical and psychological support for a comprehensive response to future crises. As Clara reintegrated into her daily life, she took steps to restore her sense of normalcy and re-establish her place within the community. The mission and community worked together to heal divisions and rebuild trust, using the exorcism as a point of reflection and growth. Discussions about faith, spirituality, and human suffering led to a renewed sense of purpose for the mission, emphasizing compassion and understanding in serving the community. As Clara Germana Cele emerged from her recovery, reintegrating into daily life was daunting. The shadow of her exorcism loomed over her interactions, leaving her feeling vulnerable and out of place. Simple activities like going to the market induced anxiety, and the varied reactions of others, ranging from curiosity to pity, made Clara question her place in the community. The psychological scars from the exorcism were persistent, causing Clara to experience flashbacks and emotional distress. Despite support from therapists and loved ones, her journey to emotional stability was slow. Aware of Clara's challenges, the Umzinto community organized social gatherings to aid her reintegration. Friends and family offered emotional and practical support through simple acts of kindness. However, these gatherings sometimes highlighted differences between Clara's pre- and post-exorcism life, making her reintegration complex. The mission responded to Clara's ordeal by reviewing its practices, emphasizing a holistic approach that included medical and psychological support alongside spiritual care. New programs, such as counseling services and educational initiatives, were introduced to bridge the gap between faith and mental health. Clara's journey of personal growth showcased her resilience. Through therapy and self-reflection, she came to terms with the exorcism's impact on her life. She began sharing her story as a form of catharsis and to help others facing similar challenges. Clara also engaged in community service, channeling her experiences into supporting those in need. Clara continued to face challenges as emotional scars resurfaced. She developed coping strategies like mindfulness and therapy and prioritized her mental health. Clara sought reconciliation with skeptics of the exorcism, fostering empathy and understanding through open communication. The exorcism's long-term effects prompted the community to re-evaluate faith practices, emphasizing compassion and understanding. The mission adopted more inclusive spiritual practices, balancing spiritual and mental health needs. This shift reinforced the mission's role in guiding the community with a compassionate and holistic approach to faith and well-being. Years after the exorcism, Clara Germana Cele had transformed her trials into integral parts of her identity and purpose. She devoted herself to community service, providing support for those facing spiritual and emotional struggles. Her role evolved into that of a spiritual leader and mentor, using her unique understanding of faith and mental health to guide others. Despite her progress, Clara remained humble, sharing her experiences openly to offer hope to others. Her journey was marked by deep empathy and a commitment to healing both herself and those around her. Clara's experiences united the once divided community of Umzinto, emphasizing the importance of addressing both spiritual and mental health needs. The mission implemented new programs, including support groups, mental health workshops, and partnerships with healthcare providers, promoting a more compassionate and inclusive approach. Community practices evolved, fostering empathy and support. The mission reinforced its role in guiding the community by integrating spiritual and practical support as a cornerstone of its approach. Clara's legacy included several initiatives inspired by her journey, such as a support center offering resources for spiritual and emotional issues. Her story inspired a more compassionate approach to faith and mental health, extending beyond the immediate community. Clara's contributions were recognized through community awards and acknowledgements, celebrating her as a transformative force within and beyond the community. Reflections from Clara's family and community leaders highlighted her profound impact on their lives. Clara's openness helped mend relationships and foster unity. She envisioned a future guided by the lessons from her experiences, continuing her commitment to supporting those in need. Clara's story underscored the importance of addressing spiritual and emotional needs with compassion. The mission and community looked toward a future characterized by inclusivity and support, inspired by Clara's legacy. Her journey served as a powerful reminder of resilience and the transformative power of faith and support.